All right, let's talk about the budget resolution, the budget bill that was passed this past Thursday in the House, and we're going to cover some of the recent drama on that. The kids are fighting again on both sides of the Republican aisle. There seems to be some holdout groups that want to do even more cuts. So let's get into the bill and its approval from BBC here. Trump-backed budget bill approved in U.S. House. After the 216 to 214 vote on Thursday, Trump posted on social media, "Congratulations in the House to the House on the passage of a bill that sets the stage for one of the greatest and most important signings in the history of our country." Also, at the end of the video, we're going to go over what studies show about the tax cuts that we're essentially trying to extend, what all this is about, like why we're trying to cut so much, because these tax cuts are expensive to extend them from 2017. We're going to look at what studies have shown about what that has done to the economy. Did it benefit the economy? Did it harm the economy? Stick around to the end and we'll see that. So, the merger process, however, the House bill is deeper in spending cuts than the one passed by the Senate, and the two versions must be merged into one bill for Trump to sign into law. The merger process is called reconciliation, and further legislation will be needed to enact the bigger tax cuts that Trump has asked for. The House plan, currently a broad blueprint with many details still to be worked out, would cut taxes by about $5 trillion over the next decade. It would also add $5.7 trillion to the U.S. government's debt, according to Reuters. The Treasury reports that the U.S. debt currently stands at around $36 trillion. I've seen reports of this costing $6 trillion, $6.5 trillion. It seems like every time there's a new report or study on this, the number goes up. Like, this is expensive. And I don't know, like, why people still believe it when Republicans are like, yeah, we care about the debt and the deficit, bro. We're gonna make sure we have a surplus and all that stuff, and it's gonna be great. When that's never the case, it's just to get their tax cuts through, which disproportionately benefit the rich. So, the possibility of ballooning government debt led a number of Republican hardliners to initially oppose the bill and demand deeper spending cuts. On Thursday, the Republican no voters had been whittled down to two: Thomas Massie of Kentucky and Victoria Sparks of Indiana. The scale of the spending cuts laid out in the bill would be many times greater than those already made under Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, which claims to have saved $150 billion so far, although that figure has been disputed. Yeah, it hasn't been $150 billion. Go look at the reports and research into that. It's not $150 billion, and even by their own admission, they have lowered their expectations, their expected cut goal, like, tremendously. The budget measure will also slash money coming into the U.S. federal government if it eventually passes. The bill will extend tax cuts that were passed by Trump's first term in 2017. More on that at the end of the video. President Trump has also asked for additional tax cuts on tips to make good on a campaign promise to end income taxes on tips for service industry workers, as well as on overtime wages and Social Security retirement benefits. Those tax cuts, if passed, would further increase the U.S. government debt. A rise in federal borrowing requires another vote by Congress to increase the debt ceiling, although such measures have been contentious. Bessent said during a cabinet meeting on Thursday that he was confident that Congress would raise the ceiling again later this year. If you actually stood by your principles that you say, you shouldn't need to raise the ceiling, because you wouldn't be ballooning federal debt like you're about to do. So let's talk about the drama. Risk of failure looms large as GOP starts drafting the big, beautiful bill. They know it's going to be big. They want it to be beautiful. Now Congressional Republicans need to decide what's going to be in it, and they're confronting the very real possibility they might not be able to figure it out. A Thursday House vote might have finalized a fiscal framework for the GOP's domestic policy mega bill, but completing that intermediate step exposed huge fissures between the House and Senate over a range of issues crucial to finishing the sprawling legislation that's expected to span tax cuts, border security, energy, and more. Remember, through all this cuts that they're stressing about and trying to find, it's only non-defense. Border security, defense, Pentagon, military spending, that is being increased by the hundreds of billions. Meanwhile, they're looking to cut hundreds of billions, if not trillions, in non-defense cuts. Keep that in mind. Speaker Mike Johnson made big promises to a band of fiscal hops about the steep spending cuts, while Senate Majority Leader John Thune has left himself maximum flexibility to placate his own conference. Competing GOP factions, meanwhile, have drawn all sorts of red lines for the bill, many of them wholly incompatible. And that has some Republicans worried about what's ahead. I know the dialectic is supposed to produce a final result, but sometimes it doesn't. Many times up here, it doesn't, said John Kennedy of Louisiana. We can spend an entire year getting nothing done. Looming large over the GOP sprint towards a big, beautiful bill, as President Donald Trump has demanded, is what happened last time Republicans tried to sprint out the gate and pass a big party line policy priority after a Trump inauguration. Their 2017 effort to remake American healthcare ran aground after dominating the first 7 months of Trump's tenure as president. Many Republicans, particularly in the Senate, warned against lumping the party's entire legislative agenda into one must-pass package, calling it a recipe for division and delay. Now, many of those same voices are urging GOP leaders to move fast and not let the process get bogged down. Kennedy said he wants a 60-day deadline to hash out the bill before calling in Trump to resolve their differences, while Senate Budget Chair Lindsey Graham said last week he's aiming to get the bill to Trump by Memorial Day. And they do got to move fast, and Trump needs to move fast, because recent polls are showing that Trump's approval rating is plummeting. And once your approval rating starts to plummet, you lose your power and you lose your influence over Congress, because they may, if they have any brains, which debatable at this point, would be less beholden to you. So yeah, keep that in mind as well. That is a reason why he's probably trying to get this done. Johnson and Thune are cognizant of the need for speed. They have urged their committee chairs to use the 2-week recess now underway to ramp up their private talks with members and start bridging the vast differences between the two chambers, with the goal of having panels start advancing pieces of the mega bill once lawmakers return to Washington at the end of the month. The joint budget plan approved Thursday orders committees to deliver their respective sections of the bill by May 9th, though that deadline is not binding. House Budget Chair Jody Erickson from Texas told reporters Friday that the House would go first in drafting the mega bill, sharing Graham's highly ambitious goal of getting it to Trump's desk by Memorial Day. However, Erickson warned if Senate Republicans materially change the bill the House sends over, that's only going to imperil the American First agenda, and it's only going to prolong the process. Senators, however, are not in the habit of taking a backseat to their House colleagues. They are publicly warning that their own chamber's rules will shape the end result. Many Senate Republicans have also signaled they feel unconstrained by the House fiscal targets, which include a goal of making a minimum $1.5 trillion in spending cuts. This is one of those things where they pretend that, yeah, we're not going to cut Medicare and Medicaid or Social Security or any of that. But when you look at the number, and this is just the minimum right now, a lot of Republicans, like the hardliners, are trying to increase that. A minimum of $1.5 trillion. That's like, you are setting up a situation where you have no choice but to cut Medicare and Medicaid. So they don't have to explicitly say cut Medicare and Medicaid in the bill, but the math that they're presenting equals Medicaid being cut. That's how they're trying to skirt around this. Otherwise, naming agencies that need to slim down their budgets that oversee Medicaid and these different social programs as a cover to say, hey, we're not cutting Medicare, Medicaid, because they're cutting the agency above it to, kind of save face and hide that a little bit. I think that's enough drama I care about. This kind of just goes over everything that we've gone over the past few days, past few weeks at this point. Let's look at the Trump tax cut. Like, what do studies show about this tax cut they're trying to enact? And I need to make this clear. This is already happening. Like, you've already gotten your tax cut. If this passes, you're not getting another tax cut. Nothing changes. Okay? If it expires, your taxes will go up, I think, like $1,700 to $1,800 for the entire year, depending on how much you make. And you might say, hey, I don't want that. They need to pass this. But you also got to weigh what they're doing in order to pass this to save that, and how much of the money is actually being cut or saved so they can give most of it to cuts to the wealthy. Studies evaluating the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act enacted under President Trump indicated that the legislation primarily benefited corporations and high-income individuals with limited advantage for middle and lower income households. Key findings: corporate benefits and stock buybacks. The TCJA reduced the corporate tax cut from 35% to 21%, leading to significant tax savings for corporations. Think about how much money alone that takes, and how many social programs that benefit the average American they had to cut in order to get to that number. And they're going to have to cut even more, as we're all discussing right now, the entire point of all of this, to keep that number. Many large companies, they utilize this for stock buybacks, not increasing wages or investing in expansion. Stock buybacks. Limited wage growth for workers. Despite promises of substantial wage increase for workers, studies found that the real median wages grew only marginally in the years following the tax cuts, aka nothing changed. They pretty much increased at the rate they probably already were increasing at. I would be surprised if there's a notable spike or bump to begin with. The TCJA significantly reduced federal tax revenues, contributing to the rise in national deficit. Minimum long-term economic growth. While the tax cuts provided a short-term economic boost, their long-term impact on GDP growth has been modest. Disproportionate benefits for the wealthy. Analysis indicate that the tax cuts disproportionately favored high-income individuals, with the top 1% receiving a significant share of the benefits. So, make your own conclusion for that. But it's not good. This isn't to benefit you. Now, if you want to pass a tax bill where you can say, hey, 90% of the benefits are going to the middle and low income class, and actually we're raising taxes on the wealthy. All right. I know Trump has signaled doing this, but Republicans in Congress are not going to do that. That's just marketing. That's marketing. There's going to be no increases on the wealthy. So yeah, like, is this worth it? Remember, hundreds of billions are increased to defense spending and trillions in cuts to non-defense spending. Why is it the bottom 99% of America have to pay the price for tax cuts that benefit mainly the 1%? What is the 1% sacrificing in this process? Because you can point to a lot of things that the middle class and lower class are sacrificing: Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all the Doge cuts that we've seen across the board of so many programs that help people, whether it be the USAID cuts to food banks that, not only provide food to low-income schools and areas, they also make up a good chunk of like the customers for our farmers. And you're taking that away. Like, all of this for these tax cuts. And what do the 1% have to sacrifice? Literally nothing. They are gaining, because not only are they getting the tax cut extended, they are also gaining in a sense that this administration is on their side. We've seen hundreds, dozens of regulations being set to be stripped. Yeah, so again, you shouldn't want this. I promise you that $1,700 to $1,800 you would be saving over the course of a year, a little bit of extra your paycheck, is negligible compared to the damage this is going to do to the economy and everything else. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next one. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to give a special thank you. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button down below. And if you really enjoyed it, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button while you're down there. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I will try to reply to any and all comments that I can. Until next time, watch that video on screen.